Hey everybody, the History Guy here. I am excited about this one. This game is just out today. Now, I am not cool enough of a YouTuber to get an early release copy like I know a lot of the folks out there have, so many of you may have already seen this game, and that's okay. But this is my very first look at Thrones of Britannia, a Total War saga. It's a fully contained Total War game of its own, but doesn't cost quite as much. I think it's like $35 right now on Steam. So we're going to just kind of take a first look today, and then eventually I'll probably do a full-fledged campaign. But for the time being, I just want to look at some of the features of the game, some of the available factions, things like that. So we're going to hit new campaign. And we're just going to take a little bit of a look, and then we'll dive in just a little bit into a campaign to get kind of a look at the combat and things like that. So basically, if I understand this correctly, Thrones of Britannia is a game in which you are trying to unite the various minor or petty kingdoms of Britain, both on the island of Ireland and also on Great Britain itself, the island. So what you have here are all these various little factions all over the place, and I believe this is taking place in the 9th century. So if you're familiar with the show Vikings on History Channel, that's basically the time period that we're talking about. So what we have available to us are various kingdoms. We've got, I believe this is probably Mercia.
The men are ready to serve.
And the West Saxons. In the Welsh kingdoms, we've got Gwynedd, and I guess this would be Strathclyde.
Every man will do his duty.
Up here in Scotland, we've got Gaelic kingdoms.
War is what we do best.
Sirkin and Mida. I guess that's how I would pronounce that.
The men are eager to get to it.
I'm not really that familiar on my Anglo-Saxon speech. East Anglia, Northumbria are great Viking armies, and then the Viking Sea Kings, we've got Dyflin and Sudriar. So that basically shows you kind of what the available factions are. Now let's just take a look at a couple of them to kind of see the differences.
We await your commands.
So it tells you kind of the initial challenge, which in this case for Mercia is a normal challenge. You have multiple fronts to contend with. You're controlling this area right here in the center. Then again, it kind of gives you a little bit of background information into that particular faction. And then you have cultural features, which I guess once I've played the game a little more, I'll understand the importance of these a little better. You've got part-time soldiers pledged to leave their farms for military service each year. You can recruit levy units based on the number of owned settlements. You get a plus 25% bonus to your commander's aura on all characters, a plus 5 melee skill for all units when defending in all your armies. So those are cultural features. Then you have faction features. Mercian subjects expect the kingdom's wealth to be distributed between the nobles, the army, and the people. Plus 5 unit morale when general is alive, and strong armored sword and spear infantry, impressive late game cavalry. So that's one. We'll just take a look at one other one here. Let's take a look at the Northumbrian East Viking army. So it says here that that's a hard initial challenge. You've got disloyal characters. Your faction leader is Guthfrid. So you get 150% income from raiding and sacking, being a good Viking that you are. This faction experiences a boost to morale when fighting against the hated Anglo-Saxon enemies. Nice. And the King of the Danes is here in Britannia. Must play a delicate game to stay at the top. Find the balance between appeasing the English and your army. Faction features. Ragnar's Legacy. That's so again, if you're familiar with Vikings, you'll know who Ragnar Lothbrok is. So we're going to play as the West Saxons with Alfred the Great as our leader. It's a good, easy challenge, and it's a good way to kind of just get a first look at this game. So let's go ahead and take a look here. After decades of Viking raids, the West Saxa succession passed from brother to brother down to Alfred, whose temperament, some say, was best suited to a life of piety and learning. However, having defeated the Vikings in battle, he now negotiated for a lasting peace. Unfortunately, the Vikings reneged, and the raids have since intensified, even driving the West Saxa king from his capital for a while. Naturally, Alfred is preparing to fight back. So we'll take a look at our cultural features. This is an English kingdom, so Basically, all the English kingdoms have the same cultural features, both of them. Now, our particular faction of the English, the Anglo-Saxon National Assembly, meets to discuss progress and make new proposals regarding West Saxon's future. Plus 5% for all generals per turn, strong armored sword and spear infantry, impressive late game cavalry. Victory objectives. Quite a bit here. So you have various ways that you can win victory. You've got conquest victories, fame victories, and kingdom victories, and then there's an ultimate victory. So control 80 settlements either by direct ownership or through vassals. Control 15 provinces in full, either by direct ownership or through vassals. Control 110 settlements, either by direct ownership or vassals, or 25. So same thing, just shorter, long. Same here, fame, 256 fame versus 532. And that's gained by increasing your faction leader's influence, raising war fervor, constructing buildings, occupying settlements, researching technologies, and through unique faction mechanics. And then a kingdom victory can be had by controlling particular provinces. An ultimate victory then complete any of the long victory types, any of these three, and then eliminate the Viking invasion fleets. So a lot here, a lot to explore and get into. We're just going to keep the campaign and battle on normal for the time being. Just want to dive into this just a little bit. Alright, we're ready to start the campaign.
Long have the Vikings raided our lands, but nothing prepared us for their great army. For a decade we fought them, the tide of battle ebbing back and forth. Until finally, they were defeated, and their great army fled our lands. Now, England lies divided. Its old political order washed away. Too long have we fought amongst ourselves. Now is the time to unite as England.
England is divided, weakened from a decade of fighting. West Saxa has suffered greatly, but its star is on the rise. It is your fate to bring order back to these lands. You have vassals under your protection who are sworn to aid you in time of war. They are Gwent and Glewisig to your northwest, Defn and Kernu to your west, and Sooth Saxa and Kent to the east. It is important to maintain good relations with your vassals. If you do not, they may choose to break your treaty rather than join your war. Rumors abound of new Viking incursions in the south. You will need to build up your defenses there to make sure you are not caught off guard when they strike. One of your armies is ready to attack the southern rebels. Dealing with this threat promptly will bring much needed stability to your lands.
Alright, so we've been issued a mission right off the bat. We should stabilize internally before we look beyond our borders. Prove your right to rule and eliminate the nearby rebels. So we've got to eliminate these rebels, and we'll gain 5 internal stability. So I would guess we're going to take, we've got Alfred's army right here, and we're going to go deal with these rebels. So let's get right to some combat.
Battle is upon you. Be sure to weigh up your chances of victory, indicated by the balance of power bar on the center panel. Should your forces have the advantage, then either fight the battle manually or auto-resolve to have the outcome determined for you.
Now, normally I would probably auto-resolve just because I've got such a significant advantage in this battle. But in this particular case, we want to see what combat looks like a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and manually fight this one. So on the loading screen here, you get kind of an overview of the armies and the commanders of those armies. So you kind of see what you're up against. You get a little bit of information like age, influence, command, governance, and zeal. You can look at the particulars of each unit and what their various skills are. So that helps a lot to kind of know what we're up against on each side. So he's got, it looks like, some elite sword infantry. That's his royal companions. I would assume mine are as well. Yep. He's got 120 levy spear infantry, and then levy bow infantry, levy melee cavalry. So my retinue sword infantry is probably going to be a little better than some of his. He has very little in the way of command points, governance, zeal, loyalty, things like that. So this should be a fairly easy battle to win. But being my first one on this game, I'm not going to take anything for granted. We've got pretty nice weather. So we're going to go ahead and go right into this. Just to let you know how my graphic settings are, I think I have them on the default setting, which right now is set to high. So you can go higher than this, but until I can fully kind of understand where I'm at as far as what my system can handle, I'm going to keep it right there. You can see not a real high-end graphics card. I've got a GTX 1050 Ti that has 3 gigs of RAM on it. And I think my system has 16 gigabytes of RAM. I've got a pretty decent processor, so we'll see how it runs on this. I think we'll be okay, but for the time being, what we need to do is look at our troops. So it looks like we actually start pretty close to him. I don't like these trees, though, all kind of being in the way, especially for my units that my missile units. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to go ahead and pull back to about right here to start until I know what he's going to do. If he comes at me, great. So I'm going to pull my cavalry just off to the side a little bit until I see what he does. We're going to get our archers grouped together so I can control them a little easier. And then I've got my spearmen, my retinue sword infantry, and of course my royal companions, who I probably don't want to rush right into battle. So let's get a look at these guys. The game seems to be running pretty smoothly. Now granted, this is a pretty small battle. There's not a lot of troops on the field right now. Pretty cool. No armor or anything to speak of. These guys are basically spear infantry. These are my royal companions. So they're got shields, swords, some armor. They're a little better equipped. Let's look at the archers here. Looking good, guys. Looking good. Love the mustaches. Some pretty sweet looking mustaches. This must be the commander of the unit because he's got a sword and armor and helmet, unlike the rest. So let's take a look at him over here. He doesn't appear to be moving. He's going to make me come to him. So these are the rebels that we're fighting up against. Equally beautiful mustaches. Alright. I guess we're going to have to come to him. He does not appear ready to come to me. So I'm going to go ahead and come up here on this side where we've got a clearing, and then we'll fast forward this thing and we'll just keep an eye out. I don't think he's gonna move. I think he's gonna wait until I get in range, and then he'll kind of make a decision from there. Alright, he's moving a little bit now, but he's basically just shifting his troops. So my archers are in place. The rest of my troops are just about there. Again, he's doing very little. I'm going to move my archers up a little bit. Alright, we'll slow it down now. I guess I can just press 1. I did group them for a reason. I'm going to put the royal companions in a third row. And I'll use them to kind of take an advantage when the time comes. It's going to take me a while to get used to how to use these troops. Especially since I'm used to games where I have guns.
Awaiting orders! Run, warriors!
Ready for war! Don't hold back!
Don't falter now, lads! Awaiting orders!
Let's get these archers up on higher
Don't
ground.
hold back! Enemies, beware!
Alright, good. I can hold down space and I can see what's happening.
Quick march!
Well, here's another thing that's kind of cool about this. You click on a particular unit of yours, and you can see which of his units pose the biggest threat against you. You can see here, these guys are a medium threat. These guys are a low threat because they're archers themselves. So each of your units, you can kind of see how he can counter them most effectively. Like all of these are low threats against my royal companions.
Making ready!
High threat against my spearmen, of course, would be his royal companions. So you get a sense of... it does a good job of letting you know who's going to do well against what units. And you can see the range. We're not quite in range yet, so we're going to have to move the bowmen up a little bit further.
Battle awaits us! Pound the earth!
Where's my cavalry? I got to keep them close.
Kick your steeds!
Let battle commence! Battle awaits us! Don't hold back!
How close are we to being in range? Are you really moving away, dude? Come on, chicken. Get out here and fight me.
Archers!
Alright, we'll get the archers moved up into range.
Spearmen! Run while you can! Run, warriors!
Pound the earth!
I gotta keep the cavalry close. I don't want him charging at my archers.
Ride to victory! Ride hard! Archers!
Alright, we're almost there.
Get them before they get us! Run, warriors! Spearmen!
I'm doing this kind of incrementally just until I get familiar. Alright, here comes the cavalry.
Ready for war! Let's do this, lads! Bowman! Fire on them! It's a charge! Cavalry!
So you can see he used kind of that arrow formation there. I think my cavalry should take care of his. In the meantime, we're going to use our archers to weaken him before he gets into range.
Our general is under attack.
Our general's under attack. We got to back these guys up a little bit. They're using their shields, you can see, so that's good. Alright, you guys back up. Or we'll just send our guys through you. How about that? And we're going to focus on his archers now with mine. Alright, here we go. Yes! Love it. So these are his royal companions against my spearmen, so it's not really a good matchup for me. Let's get my royal companions in there.
The battle is turning in our favor. See, they flee before our might.
Alright, his archers are taking off. I want to see where his general is. He should be over here somewhere. Where is he? Can we see him? I don't know. Alright, this thing's almost over. Let's take a look and see the numbers. He's down to 93 men. Now it's under 80. Alright, we killed his general. Alright, there's victory. Awesome. They give you a nice easy one to start. There can be no doubt this is a great victory. The enemies are dead. The enemy are dead or running for their lives. End battle. So the battle lasted for 10 minutes. And let's see, we've got just a few troops left on his side. I lost 61. He lost 265. Alright, the rebels are defeated. So let's take a look now. We've got some choices to make. We can ransom and release the captives, get 60 gold. We can take on warriors and our units get replenished by 2%, which won't be much. Or we can kill them. The enemy of my enemy will like me more for it. You know what? There's not many left. Wipe them out. Alright. So the rebel is dead. We've completed our first objective. Internal stability goes up by 5. I'm not entirely sure how that plays out yet. Let's take a look at a few other features before we wrap up this first look. So we've got here our current golden treasury. I'm operating under the assumption that most of you are at least vaguely familiar with the Total War series and how the typical game mechanic works. But if not, I can talk a little more in depth about that if you have specific questions. But what we've got here is War Fervor. War Fervor measures your people's appetite for war. On higher difficulty settings, you lose more War Fervor for each war you are engaged in. And then you see the various things that affect that War Fervor. What we've got here is our army contains just the right number of levy units to absorb the enemy arrows. So levy units are basically like your conscripts. Those are your militia, your weakest troops. And you can only have so many of those. There's our leader influence. And then those are our cultural bonuses, I think. Internal stability there. Turns remaining 5. Here's our food surplus, so we always have to make sure that we're producing enough food to feed our armies and our people, I would guess. And that affects how quickly you replenish your units. Here we've got... Oh, I'm just looking at another one of my armies over there, I guess. Let's take a look over here now. We've got objectives, and this is just to kind of remind you about what you have to do in order to win. Our economy right here, so we're kind of getting an overview of all of our territories. Income from taxes, trade, and other. Total income, gold will be gaining next turn. So that's basically like any other Total War game as far as how that works. You can raise or lower your tax level. Here's our trade, what we're producing, exporting, total, who our trade partners are. You get an overview of all the available factions on the map. And then kind of a summary overall of things here. So there's just a lot. There's a lot of depth, a lot of information here. Here's technology research, military and civic. So again, a lot of things to be researched. So it looks like in order to gain some of these, you have specific things you have to do. So melee units, for example, recruiting 10 sword and or axe infantry units. Units provided by the garrison building chain also count toward this. So that unlocks the recruitment of royal thanes. So doing various things get you these new... so it looks like in order to unlock that particular tree, you have to do the first thing. So once you do the first thing, it looks like it allows you to start researching these other ones. If I understand that right. It seems like that's what's happening. Currently, you're not researching anything, I think, because I haven't unlocked any of these to start. So on civic side, build or upgrade within the granary or souterrain chains, or conquer a region with the highest level building in one of these chains. Once you do that, it unlocks your ability to research the other things. So that's basically a real quick look at technology. Here's diplomacy. And again, we get a real nice map of everything that's going on around us. And we have the ability then to click on the various factions and see strength rank, their number of regions, the treaties they have with other folks, their attitude toward me, and whether it's deteriorating or not. So let's take a look here. Glewissig, for example. I have 55 points in my favor because of a treaty I have, because of a diplomatic bonus. They condemn some events that have happened in Mercia, and then that gives you your overall total attitude value. You can also then see their strength ranking, their ethics matter right here. So that means this man believes in the sanctity of treaty. So that's important, I guess, because if you're making a treaty with somebody who has a history of breaking treaties, you're probably going to see that right here. This man prefers to keep his armies close. So there's a lot of information. It looks like this is really important. You're going to want to do a lot of background information into a particular faction or a particular leader before you choose how to react to that particular faction or leader. You can see his allies, his defensive pacts, his enemies. A lot of great information. So there's, like I said, there's a whole lot of depth here that I'm only scratching the surface of. So here we have our family tree and politics. Man, I'm loving this game already. There's so much here. So I am Alfred, of course. Here's my wife, Ealhswith. Looks like we have a number of children already. An 8-year-old daughter, a 4-year-old son. Obviously, they cannot be assigned ministerial positions at that young of an age. I've got a 3-year-old daughter, a 2-year-old son, and a 1-year-old daughter. So as the game goes along, obviously those things are going to change. We've got other nobles within our kingdom. Now we look at governors and estates. So here's our various governors of the various territories, and you can see what areas they govern. You can remove them from that office. You can zoom to that location, get a better look. You can see their loyalty, things like that. You can see contributing factors to all of that. Here's our records. It's kind of our history of what we've done. So a lot of different ways you can look at all this as well. Statistics for the game so far. Settlements held, settlements captured. Factions encounters. 52 different factions that I've encountered. That's incredible. So kind of an overview there. And then the last thing is our strategic map. So you can see here, attitude to selected faction. Selected faction. So let's take a look at our faction, West Saxa. You can filter a bunch of various things here. So just a lot to be kind of looked at, an overview here. We can see our current armies in the field. We've got Alfred and the Swine Array. And it looks like there's an upgrade that I can make. And then there's 465 men with Elfwald. We can see all of our provinces right here. Now I'm flying through this because I'm trying to do this in one episode, but there really is just so much to be taken in. And once I do a regular campaign, I can touch on these things in a lot more detail. Here's all our various factions. These are vassal kingdoms. One of my vassal kingdoms not real happy with me, Kurnu. We're going to have to probably do something about that. So let's just take a look here for a second at Kurnu. Oh wait, you know what? Here we go. We've got unassigned skills. Let's deal with this first. So here's Alfred. This is my guy. We can look at his family right there. So that just takes you back to the family tree and politics screen. So let's see. How do we spend our points? Okay, so right here. So champion. Powerful men attract enemies. This one ensures they never get close enough to strike. So level 1 champion allows me 1 command, 5 melee skill for my unit. Which would be my army. Bard gives him +1 zeal. Forager on level 1, +5% unit replenishment. +5 food production. Pillager, +5 rating income, -2 to enemy morale. Quartermaster, +5% campaign movement range. Priest is +1 to loyalty. And Siege Engineer, +1 to siege holdout time on a local settlement, -1 to siege holdout time on an enemy in the province. So I think for now I'm going to go with Champion level 1. So I guess we don't have to apply it or anything. It just does that. So, all right, there we have it. So I think we'll wrap up right here. Take a look at my units. Obviously need some replenishing, but I probably have to be somewhere to do that. So we're gonna kind of head over to the nearest village here, minor settlement. I don't know if I can do that in a minor settlement or not.
Marched all it can this turn and must rest. Your general's action points replenish at the start of each turn.
All right, very good. All right, we'll go ahead and hit one turn here and see what happens. It looks like turns go by season, so it's spring of 878 AD right now. And we're going to kind of sit through the other factions. It goes pretty fast, though. But there are a lot of factions. Okay. New mission issued. When Alfred first took the throne of West Saxa, he followed it up with a glorious victory over the great Viking army, led by that vicious barbarian Guthrum. Now it's time for us to finish that fight and permanently deal with East Anglia. Wipe them out. You get 2 influence for doing that.
One of your noblemen has increased in rank and gained a skill point. Skill points can be spent to gain bonuses from their retinue of followers. Click the notification at the top of the screen to be taken directly to this character.
So we can rename our military force if we so choose. And I guess we're looking at this particular... Oh, we can recruit units here as well. So let's take a look at that real quick.
Any general commanding an army can recruit from the global pool of units available to your faction, as long as they are fortified or garrisoned within a settlement. Units are added to the army immediately when recruited, but at low strength.
Okay, so you recruit them at low strength, and I guess then they just build up over time. So here's our available units. We've got spear infantry. We don't have the technology to recruit some of these others. Axe infantry. Yeah, that's the way to go. Alright, so then they just... Yeah, you can see they get added, but there's only 36. Then we just kind of have to wait for them to replenish over time. So let's look at our general, because he's the one that has the skill that we can level up. We're going to make him a champion as well.
Units recruited at low strength, or those that have taken casualties in battle, will replenish their numbers over time. Armies replenish faster when garrisoned within a settlement.
Alright, so there you have it. And you can see right now, just a very good thing to look at is your kind of your balance going into the next turn, which obviously I want to keep that in the green as much as I can. So over here we've got our event messages. We see that war was declared between these two nations. We've got a mission issued to go after the Great Viking Army. We've got our unit that was recruited. So that kind of gives you kind of the gist of things. I'm going to wrap up right there. And I'll probably continue this as a series, playing as the West Saxons. But I won't do very often, at least at first, because I've got so many other series going right now. I don't want to just add one more to the mix. So I'll try to wrap up at least one of my other series before I focus too much more on this one. But I wanted to at least do a kind of first look. Since the game was released today, it is out to the general public. I think the normal price is $39.99 on Steam. I purchased it yesterday, so I think it was a discount. I don't know if that's still the case or if that was just for the early release that you could do that. But it's live, it's available. Check it out. If you're into Total War, if you're into medieval warfare, which I certainly am, you'll definitely like this game. So, as always, thanks for watching, guys. Please do take advantage of the comment section below. If you have specific things you want me to cover in future videos or kind of go over in this game. If not, please hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll check this out a little further in the weeks to come. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you again soon.